Hi all, my today's topic is about contracts and subcontract clauses. I'll be delivering a session or a lecture based on the topic called as contracts and subcontract clauses in construction industry. The lecture objectives are at the end of this lecture, students should be able to explain the significance and concepts of contract management in construction. Here, Here, the students should be able to explain the significance and concepts of contract management in construction. The other outcome of this lecture is explain the general and specific conditions of a contract. Okay, what do you mean by contract? What is the actual definition of a contract? So, contract is something that is a promise enforceable at law. So, to any contracts that should be enforceable by law. Uh, Let me take you an example. There will be two parties in contract. What are the two parties? We call those two parties are offerer and offeree. Okay, the person who offers some work to be done. Okay, those people are called as offerer, and the person who is going to execute that work, we call them as offeree. In the same way, the same terminologies we can explain by using promiser and promisee, the offerer and offeree, and the promiser and promisee. So all agreements, whatever we do, are not contracts, but all contracts are agreements. So what do you mean by this statement? All agreements are not contracts, but all contracts are agreements. Because any agreement means it is a it is a mutual understanding between two parties. Okay, once it is enforceable by law, then we call it has been entered into contract. So what do you mean by contract? Contract is nothing but it is an mutual agreement between two or more parties enforced by a law under a lawful consent, that is a free consent of the parties, and for a lawful object under lawful consideration. Okay, without there is any void for the agreement. Okay, this is the definition of contract. There should be lawful object, there should be free consent of the parties, there should be lawful consideration, that is something should be there in return. Okay, that is what we call it as lawful consideration. Okay, there should be two parties, they should be having a legal relationship for a legal object or a lawful object with the free consent of the parties and the legal consideration, and the agreement should not be void at any point of the time. That is what we call it as contract. So if it is enforceable by law, then it is a contract. If it is not enforceable by a law, it will be just an agreement. What are the essentials of a legally valid contract? The first essential of a legally valid contract is parties to the contract should be competent. So what do you mean by competent enough? Competent means the parties should be having that capacity. For example, a minor, a person who is age of less than 18 years cannot enter into contract. So such contracts, the people who are less than 18 less than 18 years, if they enter into any type of contract, it will be, or if they sign any type of contract, it will be a void contract, means void ab initio. From the initial stage itself, the contract will be void. So the parties to the contract should be competent means they should be having that capacity. So the term here competent means it gives in meaning in many senses. Competent means the person should not be minor, the person should not be of unsound, the person should not be of unsound mind. Like that, these people are not allowed to enter into a contract. So if the parties are not competent enough, then it will not be a legally valid contract. The second essential of a contract is the subject matter of the agreement must be legal and definite. Okay, the subject matter of the agreement must be legal and definite. Legal and definite means if I ask, A person asks B that he will be paying some rupees 5,000 to burn some scooter at the public place. So here it is not a contract. Why? Because the burning of scooter is not a legal object. So there should be a legal object and it should be definite. Okay. The next essential of a valid contract is there should be a proper proposal and its acceptance. There should be a proper proposal and acceptance. I told you there will be two parties. The parties are the offerer and the offeree. The offerer should be having a valid proposal and the offeree should be having a valid acceptance. So how this acceptance should be? The parties to the agreement must give their free consent. Free consent means without influence of the other party. If there is a party a person A and a person B are entering into a contract, okay, they should be having a free consent. They should not be under any coercion. Coercion means not under the influence of the third party, under the forceful influence of some other party. They should not give the free. They should not give the consent. So that is what we call the meaning as free consent. There must be lawful consideration. Lawful consideration means there should be some thing in return which is legally. For example, person A sells his scooter to person B. Person B pays some amount in return to person A. Okay, here the consideration is there. That is called as lawful consideration. Again, taking an example is person A wants to sell his horse for rupees 10,000 to person B. Person B that accepts the proposal and he pays rupees 10,000 in return to person A. Okay, now this is a lawful consideration. Then comes after discussion of the essentials of the contract. Now we shall discuss uh, what is discharging of a contract. What do you mean by discharging of contract? See, discharging of contract is either completed or terminated. Means the discharge can happen if you complete the work and hand over the work to the person, that is called as also discharge. Okay, or if you don't complete the work, if you terminate the work in between, that is also called as discharging of contract. How the discharging of contract can happen? It can happen in many ways. The first way of discharging of contract is by performance its provisions. By performance its provisions means initially the parties will be entering into contract based on many clauses. Okay, they have maintained many clauses. So based on that clauses, you will be performing the duty. Here the performance might be actual performance or attempted performance of the contract. What do you mean by actual performance? Actual performance means you execute the work whatever it is there as per the clauses. That is called as actual performance of the contract. What do you mean by attempted performance of the contract? Attempted performance means you are going to attempt but you will not be completing. Okay, so that is called as attempted performance of the contract. Okay, the contract might be discharged when there is an agreement between the parties or when there is a mutual consent between the parties. Parties, let me take an example. Party A and B enter into a contract for doing some work, for executing some work. Here A and B, okay, by mutual consent, they will not complete the work or they'll not be able to complete the work, but on the mutual consent they'll make an agreement that the contract will be ended. In that case you will be implementing new contract or you will be substituting new contract by the old contract clauses, or you will be changing some of the clauses of the contract and again new contract will be formed. It can be done in many ways. Some of the ways are novation, N-O-V-A-T-I-O-N. Novation is one of the way. Other way is to rescind the contract, rescission. The other way is remission. The other way is uh, the other way is discharge of contract, that is waiver of the contract. Okay, those things comes under the agreement between the parties. The third option is due to operation of law. There is one law while forming the contract, but later that law has been no more. If the law doesn't exist no more, so due to implementation of the new law, the contract comes into end. Okay, that is called as operation of law. The next way of discharge of contract is due to frustration. Frustration. What do you call as frustration? Frustration means it is the it is basically two persons enter into contract, but while entering into contract, while making an agreement, due to some circumstances, the party cannot enter into contract, or they cannot take up that work due to enactment of some laws, or due to some conditions at that particular contract time. That we call it as frustration. The last way of contract discharge is fundamental breach of a contract. Now, I shall discuss about international contract document. All the contract documents that has been framed in India, or we have some standard base of forming a contract document. As a independent, I cannot form a contract. I cannot frame a contract document. However, I want. There is a some standard format established, or there is a some standard format that has been made. Okay, that is who is going to do that? That is done by the International Federation of Consulting Engineers. So we call it as FIDIC, F-I-D-I-C, Federation Internationale des Ingenieurs Conseils. This we call it as FIDIC, International Federation of Consulting Engineers. This federation was founded in 1913 by the National Associations of Belgium, France, and Switzerland. This association was founded in 1913. What was the purpose of formation of this association is to make an international contract document, or some standardized contract document which will be acceptable across many countries. It is an international document. The role of this organization is to publish standard forms of contract documents related to procurement of engineering works. The main uh, area, the scope of this Federation of Consulting Engineers is to publish a standard forms of contract documents. Then, what are the different international contract documents we are having? I told you there are the FIDIC is responsible for uh, uh, publishing the international contract document. What are the different international contract documents we are having? We are having three major international contract documents, three books. It has been mentioned as three books. So FIDIC's forms of contract documents for building and engineering works. It has been vastly divided into three books. What are these three books says? What are these three books? They have been named as Red Book, Yellow Book, and Orange Book. What actually the Red Book deals with? Red Book gives the standard clauses of conditions of contract for civil engineering construction. If there is civil engineering construction, what are the standard clauses that has to be incorporated here? Those things will be mentioned in the Red Book of conditions of contract for civil engineering construction. The Yellow Book refers to the conditions of contract for electrical and mechanical works. The Yellow Book refers to conditions of contract for electrical and mechanical works. Then comes Orange Book. Orange Book, for what purpose it is used? Orange Book gives the conditions of contract for design and build and turnkey projects. Conditions of contract for design, build, and turnkey projects. So each book has its own different clauses. Okay, these clauses are not framed by a single person. It is a standard contract document. Standard contract clauses are there. Okay, using those standard contract clauses, we can frame our own clauses by keeping that standard contract clauses. The standard contract clauses act as a backbone for all the contract documents. Yeah, for a standard contract documents, what are the different things or different um, parts involved in standard contract documents? For example, if you open up any book, there is something called as an index sheet. What does this index sheet or a content sheet gives you? Index sheet or a content sheet gives you what are the chapters that has been covered, what are the topics that has been covered. Okay, similarly here in this slide, whatever I'm showing is, it is the outline of standard contract document. What are the things, what are the clauses that has been incorporated in standard contract document? The first clause or the first thing that is mentioned in the standard contract document is invitation to bid. Okay, invitation to bid is the first standard contract document. The what is the next second standard contract clause is instruction to bidders. Instruction to bidders. The third standard clause is part 1, general conditions of the contract. Here in the general conditions of the contract, only the general clauses will be mentioned. For example, the payment, how the payment of the bills should be made. It is a general, it comes under the general conditions of the contract. If I take part 2, conditions of particular application, this acts as a particular application. For example, if I want to construct a swimming pool on the 25th floor, the terrace swimming pool has to be constructed. So how it has to be constructed? What are the strategies I should make? So the particular application, if there is any special application, any special clauses, okay, those things will be included in part 2, conditions of particular application. In the same way, the next clause is technical specifications. Technical specifications might be involving the quality manuals, it might be involving the design and drawings, all those things. The last, not the last, it is the next clause is bill of quantities. Okay, let me discuss the first clause of standard contract document, that is invitation to bid. What do you mean by invitation to bid? You might have seen in the newspapers, in the daily newspapers, we will be getting a major advertisements in certain columns or in the certain ways. We'll be getting advertisements. There is an invitation for the tender, invitation to bid, tender notification, or in some magazines or some newses or some publications, you will be seeing there is an invitation to bid or invitation to tender or tender in notification, like that they will be mentioning the call for a work. Those things we call it as invitation to bid. Okay, in invitation to bid or in this next clause to the invitation to bid is instruction to bidders. Okay, usually this will be added in the contract document. The second clause of this contract document will be instruction to bidders. Instruction to bidders, what things will be involved here is general instruction. General instructions involve the scope of the work, what is the validity of the work, what is expected at the completion of the work. Those scope of the work or general instruction to the bidders will be given in a part A of instruction to bidders. Next will in that clause itself, bidding documents required. Bidding documents required might be the license of the contractor, the eligibility of the contractor, the pre-qualification criteria for the contractor. Those things will be mentioned in the bidding documents of the contractor. Then preparation of bids. Preparation of bids means once all the criteria that has been satisfied, then you will be going for preparation of bids or preparation of bidding. Then once you prepare the bids as per the eligibility criteria or a pre-qualification criteria or as per the requirement, then you are going to submission of bids. The submission of bids nowadays in 2021 we are having the old method, that is submission through envelopes or submission to a particular agency or submission to some third party, or there is one more method or a new technology, that is a submission of bids through online method. There will be a portal where you are going to submit the details of the work or a bid of the work, that is called as submission of bids. Once you, from the contractor side, the bids has been submitted, there will be a bid opening and evaluation from the principal's side. Principal will be opening the bids and they will be evaluating the bids, whether the offer made by the contractor is as per their specifications, whether the contractors are meeting their specifications, whether they are capable of doing work or not. All those things will be evaluated after bid opening. Once they choose a suitable contractor, satisfied contractor, then the award of contract will be issued. So all these details, all the procedural details will be given in the clause instruction to bidders. Next, section 2 includes part 1, that is the general conditions of the contract. As I told you, general conditions means general clauses related to the contract. Uh, Under this uh, conditions of contract for works of civil engineering construction, FIDIC 4th edition, there are 72 general clauses. Okay, out of 72 general clauses, I will be discussing very few general clauses in today's session or in this today's video. There will be 72 clauses. All these clauses will be related to the payment of bills, procurement of materials. If there is increase in cost of the price, what has to be done? Okay, there will be a generalized way of mentioning uh, about these topics in these clauses. And at the end of the general conditions of the contract, there will be a forms of tender and agreement. Means the format, how the tender has to be submitted, format of agreement, if the parties are willing to take up the contract, how the formatting, in what format they are supposed to submit their proposal. Okay, those will be mentioned in the forms of tender and agreement. At the end, there will be appendix. In that appendix, there will be some other forms where it will be considering, it will be having a dispute review board agreement. If this contract doesn't happen, if there is any obligations of, if there is any violation of the contract, how it has to be resolved, by whom it has to be resolved. Okay, all those things will be, that complete set of format will be given at the appendix, dispute review board agreement. In section 3, there is a conditions for a particular applications. Each general conditions, not actually each general conditions, some of the general conditions will be linked to the conditions of particular applications. There might be some special clauses which has not been mentioned in the general clauses. Okay, or some general clauses requires more detailed way of representation. Okay, those more detailed way of representation will be mentioned in the particular application of the conditions of contract. Okay, the conditions governing the rights and obligations of the parties. So what are the different conditions that governs the rights and obligations of the parties will be mentioned in the conditions of particular application. So the part 2 gives the conditions of particular applications. General conditions here are linked with the conditions for particular applications. Those general conditions are connected to particular applications. The detailed way of representing the general conditions will be in the particular applications. Section 4 includes technical specifications. Technical specifications means, if I consider a highway project, okay, if there is a highway project, let me consider a national highway project between point A and point B. What are the different technical specifications need that has to be mentioned? Whether it is a flexible payment, or whether it is a rigid payment, or whether it is a combination of both type of payments. What under what IRC, Indian Road Congress, under what codes it has to be prepared, under what codes the road has to be designed, Okay, like that, the detailed specifications will be not actually detailed. The overview for technical specifications will be mentioned in the clause 4 or the section 4 of the standard contract document. Section 5 contains the bill of quantities. What do you mean by bill of quantities? Bill of quantities is nothing but the estimation of the project. Okay, detailed estimation of the project. For example, in section 4, you have already identified the technical specifications. There you will be preparing a detailed project report. The detailed project report will be including the soil investigations, detailed design phases, drawings, technical specifications, and it might be including the designs, the estimation of quantities. All those things will be done. What are the things in section 5? Those bill of quantities will be prepared. The complete estimation for the project, how much quantity of the work has to be conducted, what are the costs for each of the work. Okay, that is called as bill of quantities. In section 5, bill of quantities will be covered. Section 6 contains form of bid including appendix. Section 6 contains the form of bid including appendix. So what do you mean by form of bid including appendix? Okay, form of bid means there will be different agreement forms. Okay, it varies from project to project. It depends on the client's requirement. Client has his own format for the submission of the tenders or for the submission of the uh, agreements. So all these things will be given by the client itself. Okay, what actually it includes is it includes the sample forms of bid guarantee or a bid security, bank guarantee. So in what way the each contractor should get the bank guarantee. The formats, the sample forms will be attached here. Okay, the performance security bond, in what way, what are the sample forms? This is the template, basic template to get a performance security bond from the bank. Okay, bond advance payment for works, the sample forms of bond advance payment for works will be mentioned here. Then list of eligible member countries of the Asian Development Bank. Okay, so if you are doing this contract, this is an international contract. If this is an international contract, okay, who are the eligible countries? Okay, so if it is an Asian Development Bank, who are the eligible countries? Okay, so that you can the work is financially stable, means it is a financially, this work has been recognized globally. Okay, so that's why the list of eligible member countries of the Asian Development Bank will be mentioned in the section 6. The section 7 includes schedule of supplementary information. Supplementary information means, again, there are different in this schedules. There are three different schedules. So schedule 1 is major items of constructional plant. Okay, if I take the highway construction itself, what are the different constructional plants or the equipments or the machineries required? Okay, it might be how many dumpers are required, how many tippers are required, how many ready mix concrete plants are required, or if there's a precast type of construction. Okay, what type of precast manufacturing unit is required by the contractor, or if it is an highway construction, there might be requirement of hot mix asphalt plants. Okay, so what type of hot mix asphalt plants, and what specification it should manufacture the hot mix asphalt, what specification it should manufacture, or how much quantities it should manufacture. Those things will be mentioned in the schedule 1, the major items of a constructional plant. The contractor should be having these items. Okay, that is coming under section schedule 1 of supplementary information. Okay, in schedule 2 will be key personnel involved in the project. Key personnel involved in the project means uh, who are all the technical team that should be there in the project. Okay, how many senior engineers should be there, how many senior designers should be there, how many junior engineers should be there. Okay, what is the qualification of senior engineer? The senior engineer should have a master's degree with an experience of some 30 years. junior engineer should have a qualifications of a bachelor's degree with some 5 years experience, like that. The key personnel required for that particular project will be mentioning in the schedule 2. Basically it will be mentioned in the schedule 2 of the supplementary information. Then schedule 3, subcontractor information. Who are all the subcontractors? What kind of subcontracting works can be made in that project will be mentioned in the schedule 3 of the section 7, that is schedules of supplementary information. Section 8 gives Section 8 gives you about the drawings. What do you mean by drawings? Drawings required, it might be, if it is a highway project, it might be a alignment drawing, it might be a detailed design drawing for a particular segment of the work. Okay, all these things, drawings will be involved in section 8 of the work. Now I'll be discussing about the standard contract clauses. So I told you there are 72 clauses, general contract clauses. Out of this 72 general contract clauses, I'll be discussing very few important standard contract clauses. The first standard contract clause is eligibility and pre-qualification criteria. I'll be discussing one by one the standard contract clauses. Eligibility and pre-qualification criteria is one of the standard contract clauses. Earnest money deposit or earnest money is the second contract clause. Security deposit is the third contract clause. Variations or extra and substituted items is the fourth standard contract clause. The fifth standard contract clause is payment of running bill. Sixth standard contract clause is payment of final bills. Seventh contract clause is advance payments, secured advances, liquidated damages and incentive, escalation, disputed items and arbitration, owner's risk and compensation events. Now I will be discussing the first standard clauses. So I have mentioned around 12 standard contract clauses, out of which the first standard contract clause I will be discussing here. The first standard contract clause is eligibility and pre-qualification criteria. What do you mean by eligibility and pre-qualification criteria? Here, the eligibility and pre-qualification criteria includes the qualification criteria of the contractor. What do you mean by the eligibility criteria for contractor? Here, the experience on similar works executed during the last 5 years. If I say there is a contractor A, what are the experience in the past 5 years? What type of similar works this contractor has completed? Okay, how is his profile? How is the contractor profiles from the past 5 years? Okay, that is the first clause, it is eligibility criteria in that experience on similar works executed during the last 5 years. Okay, the first eligibility criteria. Those data has to be furnished by the contractor. Okay, the second eligibility criteria here is registration with similar organization. Okay, let me take an example of the Karnataka state itself. There are many contractors, there are many highway contractors, there are many government bodies. Okay, there are many government bodies means government bodies such as PWDs, and we have RDPRs, Rural Development Panchayat Raj, we have various bodies, irrigation department, we have some other department, NHAI department, like that we are having different government departments. This contractor, who is a contractor A, will be having a license to do work. So this license to do work, whether it has been furnished or whether it has been registered with the all organizations or not. Okay, so if the contractor is submitting a work to the public works department, if he is going to submit a tender, or if he is going to submit a tender to PWD department, there he has to furnish his registration for other departments also. That is called as registration with other similar organization. The third eligibility criteria is documentary evidence regarding financial standing. Okay, what is the documentary evidence regarding financial standing here is documentary evidence means he has to provide all the financial details from the last 3 financial years. It might be the income tax returns of the person or the financial statements of the organizations. What are the liabilities he is having with the financial institutions, and what are the payments which are due from his side to some other subcontractors, or some other dues that he is liable to receive from some other works. All this complete financial details has to be furnished in this eligibility criteria stage. The documents has to be furnished here. The pre-qualification information required are constitution of the company including joint ventures. So whether this company is a joint venture with some other company, if there is a company X is a single company, or whether it has been merged with the Y and it is going to execute this particular work. Okay. Whether there is a joint venture between any of the companies, or whether it is a single work or a single entity or a single organization. Okay, whether has been registered with the similar organizations, whether it has been experienced with the similar works. Yeah, the construction equipment proposed to be deployed for, if at all that contract has been given to that particular contractor, what are his assets? Assets means what are the machineries he is having, what are the equipments he is having, what are the labor capability he is having, what are the engineers, how many engineers he is having. Okay, that is the resources. The disclosing of resources will be mentioned in the pre-qualification criteria. The project planning and quality control procedures. So, which standards the contractor is going to follow, whether he is following some Indian standards code, if at all he is executing in some other country, whether he is following American standards code or some British standards code, like that. So, the quality control procedures and the standardized procedures, whatever the contractor is going to follow, it has to be mentioned here in the project planning and quality control procedures. And informations regarding project in hand, current litigation, etc. So what do you mean by information regarding project in hand means, if the contractor is giving a proposal to enter into contract. So what are the current projects he is handling? If he is handling similar kind of projects, what are the different current projects he is handling at that particular point of time, and what is the progress of those projects, whether he has completed 50% or whether he has completed 75% or whether he has completed fully that project or not. That is what we call as information regarding project in hand. Or if there is any current litigation, litigation means if there is any dispute in the current project, okay, whether it has been held due to some litigation at the site, litigation at the office, or due to dispute between the client and the contractor, like that. Whatever, if there are any litigations, that has to be mentioned in the pre-qualification criteria. And under this, there is a capacity to take new projects. What do you mean by capacity to take new project? Means whether the contractor is having to take, whether he is having a capacity to take new projects or not, based on the current status of the project, whether he is having enough resources, that is enough personnel, enough equipment, so that he can take up the new project. Okay, that is what we call it as capacities of new project, capacity to take a new project. Okay, this is the eligibility and pre-qualification criteria. The next contract clause is earnest money. Okay, what do you mean by earnest money? The next clause is earnest money deposit. What do you mean by earnest money deposit? Okay, so earnest money is something the contractor, before entering into a contract, he is going to pay to the principal. That we call it as earnest money. It means the contractor is showing interest to work in that particular project. That is what we call it as earnest money deposit. Then what is the criteria for this earnest money? Earnest money is the criteria. There is a interest of the contractor to take up that work. So how much it should be against the standard contract clauses for projects estimated to cost rupees 25 crore and above. Okay, if the project's cost is around above 25 crores, then 1% of the total estimated cost subjected to ceiling of 50 lakh. Uh, for example, if the work is 25 crores, then the 1% means it will be 25 lakhs. So 25 lakhs, again, it should not, this earnest money deposit should not exceed the 50 lakhs. The upper limit or the ceiling is 50 lakhs. Similarly, for the projects below the cost less than 25 crores, if the project's cost is less than 25 crores, then how much should be the amount? Again, it is 1% of the estimated cost, but the ceiling has to be fixed by the owner. The upper limit can be fixed up by the owner or the client. Okay. If there is a contractor who is going to submit a offer or going to submit a tender, if it is less than 25 crores, whatever the EMD, earnest money deposit, whatever it has been asked by the principal or the owner, he has to deposit that amount. That is what we call it as earnest money deposit. How it should be given to the owner? It should be given to the owner in the form of irrevocable bank guarantee of a specified bank. Okay, you cannot give him the owner the hard cash. You cannot give him the cash, or you cannot give him the check, or you cannot give him the DD. Okay, it should be in terms of the irrevocable bank guarantee of a specified banks. So in India, the specified banks means the nationalized banks or the banks which has been mentioned by that particular owner. Cannot choose the banks, whatever some local banks for the irrevocable bank guarantee. There should be the bank guarantee has to be provided for specified banks. Okay, the last thing is certified checks and demand drafts also are acceptable. So certified check means again it depends on the type of bank. Okay, type of bank. For example, if you're giving a check of some International Development Bank of India, then uh, definitely the check will be accepted like that. For how many days this irrevocable bank guarantee should be valid? It should be valid for the 28 days beyond the validity of bid. It should not, the bank guarantee should not expire. The day you give the bank guarantee should not expire the next day, on the next day. So it should be valid. This bank guarantee should be valid till 28 days beyond the validity of the bid. Okay, should be returned, and when it has to be returned back to the contractor from the owner, it has to be returned back, or it should be refunded within 28 days after the expiry of the bid validity. Yeah. So within 28 within 28 days after the expiry of bid validity, this earnest money has deposit has to be returned to the contractor by the owner. The next type of contract clause is security deposit. So what do you mean by security deposit? The security deposit can be divided into two parts. Okay. The first part of security deposit is performance guarantee. The first part of security deposit is performance guarantee. So what do you mean by performance guarantee? Performance guarantee is something which you are going to submit on the award of the work. If the contractor says, if the contractor has been awarded a work, okay, yes, you can go ahead, you can start with your work, then the contractor has to submit a performance guarantee. Yes, definitely I will complete this work, and this is the performance guarantee I am going to give you, so that this performance guarantee you can keep it. Once I complete this work, you can hand it back to me. This is one type of security deposit. That is performance guarantee will be given once the contract has been awarded. The other type of security deposit is another type of security deposit is the retention money. Retention money means the contractor does commences the work. So after some period of time or some completion of some stages, he will be submitting his bill to the owner. Okay, when the owner has to pay the contractor at this point of time, he will be deducting some amount of money. Okay, that is amount of money we call it as retention money. So uh, retention money has to be recovered from the payment of bills. So whenever the contractor submits bill for the work, whatever he has completed, the amount deducted is called as retention money. This is the other part of security deposit. So I told you security deposit will be in two ways. That is performance guarantee. The other one is retention money. Performance guarantee initially once the work has been awarded, it will be given. Whereas retention money will be recovered from the running bills. So the performance guarantee, okay, how much it should be according to the standard contract clauses? Performance guarantee should be the 5% of the contract amount in the form of bank guarantee. Again, it is not a cash or it is not against a check. It is in terms of bank guarantee. It should be 5% of the total contract amount. If there is a contract amount of some 1 lakh, the 5,000 is the contract performance guarantee that has to be paid by the contractor. This whatever percentages I am mentioning here is it is the as per the standard contract clauses. Again, it can be changed by the company to company. So how much is performance guarantee has to be submitted? 5% of the contract amount. Then how it has to be submitted? It has to be submitted within 28 days of the receipt of letter of acceptance. Once the letter of acceptance has been submitted by the contractor to the concerned authority, then within 28 days of letter of acceptance, this performance guarantee has to be given to the owner. Next is retention money. How much the retention money should be there? For the retention money, it should be deducted from 5% from the running bills. From every running bill, 5% of the money can be deducted. That is what we call it as retention money. So the sum total of performance guarantee plus retention money. So this total security deposit, this sum of performance guarantee and the retention money should not exceed 10% of the contract amount. Totally, when it has been combined or when it has been consolidated, it should not exceed 10% of the contract amount. The next clause is variation or extra and substituted items. If there is any variations in the market or initially the contractor might have agreed upon the existing BOQ. In the BOQ, what are the materials to be used, what are the technologies to be used, what are the quantity of materials to be used, will be usually mentioned in the BOQ. But if there is any variations from the BOQ or if there is any extra items submitted from the BOQ. Okay, how much the variations is permitted as per the standard contract clauses, plus or minus 25% in quantity of each individual item. So the plus or minus 25% in quantity for each individual items. Okay, then plus or minus 10% of total contract price, either plus or minus 25% in each item or plus or minus 10% of total contract price. Okay, that is the variation permitted here. Okay. For an item not existing in BOQ, so the above things whatever I have mentioned is it is for the things which are existing in BOQ. BOQ means bill of quantities. If the items that are haven't been mentioned in the BOQ, for the items not existing in the BOQ, or if there is any substituted items, instead of part A, you are going to choose part B for the execution. Then there is a substitution of the items. The rates payable will be how much the rates should be paid. The rates payable will be rates and prices in the contract if applicable. Rates and contracts with the schedule of rates are plus or minus tender premium. Market rates of the material and labor plus 10% as overheads and profits. Escalation to be paid as admissible. So if you choose some new material instead of the material which is been in BOQ, it has been substituted. So the actual market rate of that material you can put or you can claim from the client or the owner. Okay, these are the variations are for extra substituted items. The next clause is payment of running bill. So how the payment of running bill should be made? The payment of running bill usually to be submitted should be prepared and should be submitted by the contractor. The contractor prepares the bill and it should be submitted by the contractor to the client. So if there is no dispute or if there is no obligation by the client, 75% of the total amount should be paid within 14 days of the submission of the bill. So the client or the owner has to pay the contractor the 75% of the bill amount within 14 days of the submission of the bill. So then remaining 25% of the balance amount has to be paid within 28 days of the submission of the bill. If there is any delay, the client delays any payment, okay, the interest at pre-specified rate, usually the normal rate of interest is 12% per annum. But if there is any new rate of interest that has been mentioned in a contract document, that rate of interest is admissible. For the delayed payments by the client to the contractor, that interest rates has to be paid by the client to the contractor. Next is payment of final bill. The payment of final bill, the contractor submits the final bill and within 60 days of the receipt of defects liability certificate. Defects liability certificate is some certificate which has been issued by the third party. So the complete work has been completed. There is third party inspection. The third party comes and inspects the work, and once they issue defects liability, no defects liability certificates, there is no defects in this particular work, and this project is good to go. Okay, if once this certificate has been issued, the final payment has to be made within 60 days of the issue of defects liability certificate. Then the client's engineer, client means the owner's engineer, should check the bill within 60 days of its receipt and return if there is any corrections. If there is any corrections to be made by the contractor, the client's engineer, client side engineer has to give it back to the contractor. Okay, then the 50% of undisputed amount, if there is no dispute, 50% of undisputed amount has to be settled at the time of returning bill. Okay, then the contractor has to go through those bills and check for the corrections, and if the corrections has to be made, do all those things and resubmit the bill, and should be submitted within 30 days of return. Within 30 days of its return, the contractor again has to resubmit the bill. Okay, this resubmitted bill again has to be checked and paid within the 60 days of its receipt by the client or the owner. Okay, if there is again, if the client or the owner delays, okay, for the payment, then interest at pre-specified rate, usually it is 10%, currently it is 10%. Again, if the pre-specified rate, if they while entering into the contract, if they mention it as 8% or 12% or 14%, whatever it might be, according to that rate of interest, the delayed payments has to be processed by the client to the contractor. Next is advance payment. Advance payment might be mobilization advance. Okay, what do you mean by mobilization advance? To start the new project, the contractor requires some things, okay, some equipment advance. So the mobilization advance means initially the contractor will be having lesser money. So the owner has to give some amount of money to start the work. Okay, that amount of work, that amount we call it as mobilization advance. So simply the owner will not give to the contractor, yes, you can start the work, but he will be giving against the interest. That is 12% interest, or sometimes it will be free interest against bank guarantee. Bank guarantee means the contractor should say, okay, I will be returning you this mobilization advance. You can deduct it from the my bills. or at the end of the project, I'll be can deduct it at due. Okay. That is the mobilization advance. The how much mobilization advance has to be given by the owner to the contractor. Usually it will be 10% of the it will be usually 10% of the contract sum. Okay, this 10% again suddenly the owner will not give to the contractor. Again it will be in terms of two installments. The first installment will be after mobilization. After mobilization means the contractor comes, starts the work, he puts up all the equipments. At that time, the owner or the client releases that amount. That is called as after the first installment after mobilization. Okay. So the second uh, uh, installment that has to be paid is after satisfactory utilization of first advance. After satisfactory utilization of first advance means once the contractor takes up the first installment money and completely uses the first advance, then the uh, contractor is eligible to get the second installment of mobilization advance. That is called as advance payments. Okay. So the other type of advance payment is construction equipment advance. The first advance payment was mobilization advance. The second type of advance payment is construction equipment advance. So initially the contractor might not be having some of the equipments for the work. So he might be um, need need to purchase those equipments. So for this purpose, the owner or the client has to give the money to the contractor. That is called as construction equipment advance. So simply free in the free way, the owner will not be giving the money. He will be charging the interest for the amount whatever he will be giving. Okay, how much it will be? It will be given at the 12% interest or a free of interest against the hypothecation of the equipment to the owner. That hypothecation means the contractor will be pledging that equipment to the owner. Yeah, the up to 5% of the contract price, limited to 90% of the assessed cost of machinery. So either if it is some 1 lakh project, 5% will be of the contract price will be given for the machinery, up to 90%, limited to 90% assessed cost of machinery. If the machinery is costing some 10,000, 9,000 can be given, but the limit is 5,000. Okay, like that. Paid in two or more installment. Again, this construction equipment is paid in two or more installments. The first installment is after the arrival of the construction equipment at the site. The second installment will be paid after the satisfactory utilization of earlier advances. Okay. This is paid in two installments. The recovery of mobilization and construction equipment advance, okay, will be starting. The client or the owner, he will be starting to recover those money whatever he has given as a mobilization advance or equipment advance to the contractor. He will be recovering those money when this recovery will start. Once the project completes 15%, 15% of the work, then the recovery of the mobilization advance start. So the complete recovery of this money has to be completed within 80% of original contract price is executed. Next is secured advances. 75% of the cost of materials brought to site for incorporation into the works should be paid as secured advances. The next, the next clause is liquidated damages and incentives. The liquidated damages have to be paid. Okay. If there is delay in completion of the contract, this has to be paid by the owner to by the contractor to the owner. 0.5% of the contract price per week up to maximum of 10%. Owner to decide the percentage. Here owner can decide the percentage initially while making the contract or while entering into the contract. Incentives if there is an early completion of the project. Okay, if the owner gets completion of the project within specified period of time, it is called as early completion. Then incentive has to be given to the contractor by the owner. So how much it should be? It should be 0.5% of the contract price per week up to maximum of 5%. Okay, owner again here owner has to decide the percentage, that whatever the percentage they will be deciding, it has to be mentioned in the contract clauses while entering into the contract. In the escalation is nothing but the price adjustment. If this is applicable for the short duration of project, there is up to 24 months. The projects are up to 24 months. The the escalation part is will not be there. Means within 24 months there will be, assuming that there will be no increase or decrease in the price. That is a fixed price basis. There will be no subject to escalation. Only statutory variations limited to duties and taxes. If there is any change in the tax structure of the, any change in the duty of the government, okay, then those variations are acceptable. For calculating the escalation, the base price will be considered based on the date of opening of the job. Okay, and the escalation will be considered on the date of opening of job. Okay, calculating escalation will be based on the contract document. The suitable inputs that has to be provided for calculation of escalation is the labors, the materials, etc. Or usually cement and steel, bitumen, POL means petroleum, oil and lubricants, other materials and equipment. These details has to be provided for the calculation of escalation. Escalation should be calculated based on notified fair wages on the consumer price index for labors. Usually the governments or that particular authority will be announcing the labor wages as per the government notification. This is the standard labor wages. Not less than that, the companies couldn't follow. Okay, okay, that is the notified fair wages. The market rate for cement and steel, office retail price for bitumen and fuel, wholesale price index for other materials, all India average wholesale price index for heavy machinery, escalation reimbursement up to 85% of the calculated escalation. There next comes disputed items and arbitrations. Disputed items and arbitration means if there is a conciliation. Conciliation means if there is a dispute between the employer and the contractor, the method of solving the dispute is by conciliation. Okay, it is a procedure outlined in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. There will be one conciliator in the process of conciliation. There will be one conciliator. Okay, there will be settlement agreement if the parties agree for, if there is any obligation, if there is any dispute, it has been solved by conciliation, then the settlement agreement has to be signed by both the parties. Okay. If the settlement does not appear possible, then conciliator will be giving the written declaration that conciliation proceedings are terminated. Matter will be referred to arbitration. The arbitration is the next step to the conciliation. If it has not been solved by the conciliation, it will be referred to the arbitration. So in the arbitration, again under Arbitration and Conciliation Act, contracts up to 10 crores, there will be single arbitrator. Contracts costing over 10 crores, there will be committee of arbitrators. Yeah. There is something called as dispute review board. If there is any dispute between the employer and contractor, okay, employer and the contractor, there will be a dispute review board coming into picture. It is established by signature of dispute review board agreement. While signing the contract document, you will be, I told you initially, they will be doing a dispute review board agreement. Okay, so against that agreement, the membership of the board will be taking the decision. So this dispute review board will be able to solve the issues up to contracts up to 3 crores. If there is up to 3 crores, one member will be appointed who is experienced in all type of construction and interpretation documents. It will be appointed by the President, Institution of Engineers. This is for Indian case. For other case, 3 members similarly experienced. Okay, board's recommendation will be final. Okay, claims up to 1% of the contract value. The ceiling is made up to 10 lakhs for the contracts up to 30 crores. Ceiling of 1 crore for contracts above 30 crore. Okay, this will be charged by the dispute review board. For the other cases, based on the receipts of board recommendations, the case deemed to be accepted. The next clause is owner's risk and compensation events. If there is owner's risk, if the owner is responsible for the expected risk, such as if there is a war, hostility, invasion, if there is a civil war or act of God, all those things comes under the owner's risk. Not, it is not the contractor's risk. There is a riot, commotion, disorder, Okay, if there is a contamination by radioactivity, that those things will be, owner will be liable for those activities. There is a flood, earthquake, landslides, that is act of God or operation or forces of nature. Okay, in those compensation events, here the owner is responsible. The contractor, it is again the mutual understanding between the contractor and the owner. This is the summary. So, in this today's session, we have discussed the different essentials of a legally valid contract. We have discussed about standard contract document. In, uh, in standard contract document, what are the different components? There will be 72. There are 72 clauses in standard contract document. Out of that 72 clause, I had discussed. Okay, around 12 standard contract clauses. I hope these things are helpful for you people.